Republicans set to unveil their highly anticipated plan to overhaul our nation's tax code on Wednesday this week. I sat down with House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy in a first on Fox ahead of the highly anticipated announcement. Here's what he said about it.
The House just took up the Senate budget so we could move even 2 weeks faster to get tax moving. We have the criteria. We want it to be simple, we want it to be pro-growth, and we want to help the hardworking Americans. So we double the standard deduction. So a family couple, they now get their first $24,000 tax-free. You want to lower that corporate rate down to 20 so we can compete around the world. Latest studies show that means $4,000 more into the household income by getting that up. Small businesses create more jobs. Lower that to 25%, the lowest it's been in 80 years. And simplify it so people could actually just fill it out on a postcard. Keep the home deduction, keep charitable, and expand child tax credit.
There is a point of debate, obviously, with the state and local income tax deduction and that being eliminated. What can you do to appease those congressmen and congresswomen in those high tax states like New York? Peter King has already said, I cannot vote on this.
Well, the one thing I'm from one of those, and I'm even a higher one. I'm from California.
Right.
And a lot of that happens to do with the state politics, more liberal, raising taxes and having the federal government write it off. What you really want to look at, and we've been sitting down with all those individuals, Kevin Brady, numerous meetings, and there's been a lot of great ideas they proposed, looking at dealing with the property tax portion. And the one thing you have to remember, if you double the standard deduction, if you lower the rates and you eliminate AMT, if people look at the overall tax plan and they live in those states, they're going to like the final outcome of what it deals with, especially if you're that middle-income, hardworking American. You're going to get a tax savings in the process. And if you're eliminating the AMT, that really offsets what people are doing when it comes to SALT. So we're looking at property tax because some of these states have very high property tax, and I think Kevin Brady's going to have something coming forward that the majority of those members are going to like.
That's not going to be enough, though, for Peter King. I mean, you can retain the property tax deduction, but he continues to say that New York pays into the federal government more than it's getting back. That, in fact, even Governor Cuomo tweeted just recently, under this tax plan, every New Yorker will get a tax increase. So how could the president say this is the biggest tax cut in history when, in fact, a big portion of the country is going to get a tax increase by eliminating that deduction?
Well, there's 2 points here you have to look at. First, Nancy Pelosi said the same thing, and she just got 2 Pinocchios, because it's not true, because it actually helps the middle class. Secondly, I come from California. The argument is you're not getting back your federal money. Well, first of all, California and New York, they have to live within their means. Federal government borrows, so they spend more than they actually bring in. Secondly, what you really look at, the biggest payments that are going out are to Medicare and Social Security. So if you come from a state that has an old population, you're going to get more than what you come from, more than what you pay in. I like the idea of California being more prosperous and being a younger generation. That gives us a better future. So you really got to compare apples to apples. That's an argument that doesn't play when you're talking about state and local tax deduction. If you're lowering the rate, letting people keep more of what they earn. So if I go from getting the first $12,000 tax-free to $24,000, that helps me save to buy a new home. That helps me determine whether I want to send my kids to private school and others. And then I lower the rate you're paying from 10% to 0, from 15 to 12. I'm actually keeping more of my own money. So it offsets any difference when it comes in SALT and actually lets me keep more and grow the economy.
Is there a way that you could sort of adjust that to a cap on certain income? So if you make more than $200,000, then you will not be able to deduct that. But if you make below $200,000, you can, in fact, keep that deduction. Or you're just not generating enough revenue to put caps in place.
Well, we want to look at overall. And the one thing you have to remember, only about a third itemize. After we raise the standard deduction, fewer will itemize in the process, too, because they'll have a better savings. We were looking at the property tax. There's a lot of different ideas going forward. I say, let's look to see what Kevin Brady brings out on Wednesday. But the one thing that is very important, those members that come from the state, they have been so productive in expressing what their districts are looking at. We've been looking at the numbers. They've been expressing what they want to see. And I think at the end of the day, their voice is being heard in what we're able to put forward for them.
Do you want to change contributions into a 401k?
No, I think 401ks are very important. What we're going to find out in ours, we're going to raise the amount that you could put in. The more that individuals can invest their own money, the better off we are in the long term. They have more capital, they can protect themselves in the future, and they're not looking to government.
I mean, is that a real significant amount of money that you can save? I recognize you're talking about a budget that was $500 billion overspending. The next year's budget, $500 billion overspending. You need to look for as much money as possible to pay for these tax cuts. But are you really going to get sizable money by doing anything to change 401ks?
No, look, the way we're going to deal with 401ks, there's two different ways to do it. Einstein said there's only one miracle in this world, the time value of money. So the more that you could put away earlier, the more you'll have later. And if you can do it and not be taxed later on, there is a way to make the Americans more self-insured, have greater resources. So the way we'll look at the 401k, we will protect it, we'll expand the amount that you can invest, but we'll also give you an option to actually not be taxed later in life, not to have that tax burden hovering over you in the future, but actually have greater income in the future.
All right. My thanks to House Majority Leader, California Republican, Congressman Kevin McCarthy for that First on Fox interview this morning.